So to one of the top stories that we're tracking for you this hour, that's of the family, friends and the community that have gathered at the City Hall in Bloemfontein in the Free State. This is to bid farewell to 30-year-old Olorato Mongale. Her body was recovered on Sunday in Lombardy West, Johannesburg, after she had left to go on a date. One of the main suspects, Philangenkosi Makhanya, died on Friday after a shootout with police in Amanzimtoti in KwaZulu-Natal, while another suspect, Bongani Mthimkhulu, who is a friend to Makhanya, is also a wanted suspect in this case. Now, Makhanya and Mthimkhulu were out on bail on a Schedule 6 charge for kidnapping and robbery in Johannesburg, but were, of course, released by the courts on bail in April. Now, Makhanya was due to appear in court tomorrow for a pending case. And as you can see there on your screen, those are live visuals coming in there from the Bloemfontein City Hall as we continue to monitor those developments coming out of her send-off. And of course, for more on this now, we speak to Deputy Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, youth and persons with disabilities, and that is Steve Letsike. Thank you so much for your time, Deputy Minister. So, it's rather unfortunate that we revisit this conversation under such, circumstances. Let's start by just getting a broader understanding of what is government doing to deal with the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide in the country.
No, good morning to you and to the viewers. Indeed, we have a serious problem in our country where we see that our country has been recognized globally as one of the most unsafe places for women. And this is a big problem. And it is why even our government has accepted and recognized this as a crisis. And over time, what the president has done when he declared gender-based violence as a pandemic, there was then a development of the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, and this was developed and launched in 2020. And at the same time, there was a call to then focus on establishing the council that must coordinate all efforts. But what has been some of the key elements in terms of work towards responding to gender-based violence? One of which was to really mobilize resources to support community-based organizations, to strengthen the work that Thuthuzela care centers are doing. We've got 65 Thuthuzela care centers and Kusela centers, which provide psychosocial support, economic empowerment, and legal aid under one roof, so that women or victims and survivors don't find themselves going around looking for support. So these are some of the interventions that really respond to victims and looking at victim-friendly support services at police station, at health services, but also to prepare them when justice needs to be done, particularly in the prosecution effort.
Okay. Deputy Minister, I'm going to ask you to please hang 10 for us. Stay on the line for us because we need to take our viewers back to the Bloemfontein City Hall where the funeral is currently underway. I understand the family is now on the podium. Let's listen in.
We later continued to grow our friendship, but the biggest part of our friendship has been since July last year. Olo came back for a few months before she went on her trip to backpack Southeast Asia. Our friendship grew a lot in that time, and she would have given me a side eye when I say friendship, because she always said we weren't friends, we were cousins. So in the last 9 months, we've spent a lot of time together. Mama Poppy knows I would call her and say, please come and kidnap me. And when I would say that, Mama Poppy would laugh and say, and the kidnapping was because whenever I needed space or I just needed a breather, she was there. She held space for me and had room for me. And that was Olorato, always showing up for people, no matter how inconvenient it is or how non-practical it may be. She made sure. Olo and I spent a lot of time speaking on the phone. We spent a lot of time with Mama Poppy together, watching shows, and just the past 6 months or so, Olo had gone through a lot, and through every trial that she was going through, she always said, God is testing me, and He wants me to submit to Him and trust Him wholeheartedly in every single battle that I'm fighting. And I'd like to believe that in the last hour of Olo's life, she knew who to rely on and who to look to. Olo and I called each other faithful bees. I won't say what the bee means. We called each other faithful bees because it was a cocktail that we used to enjoy before she decided to stop drinking. So we would always say, a faithful bee for a faithful bee, and that meant we're going somewhere. It's very sad that I'll never get that call that comes up on the screen and says, faithful bee, and hear that raspy voice. The last 2 weeks were very beautiful. Olo came down for my birthday to Bloem, and we had an exceptional time. She was very calm in that time, which was a little bit different. She was extremely calm, and the things we spoke about, and the things we spoke about and the time we shared, it was always just beautiful and warm. It was just always a warm feeling. I'd like to say, Tato, Karabo, Kensani, Tebho, Gaurata, it's not a mistake that she spent her last few days with us. She knew who she needed to mobilize. She knew who she needed on the ground. And we understood the mandate. It has been very hard to get through this week. But as much as I'm sad about Olo's death and I'm heartbroken, I also know that there's no stone that we left unturned in our friendship. She knew how much I loved her. I knew how much she loved me. And we expressed it wholeheartedly. Olo saw me in the week before she passed. She had, her mom and her had planned a surprise birthday for me. And on that day, I sent her a message that night. And I said to her, I think we've taken this faithful bee title very lightly. To be the true meaning of faithful is to be loyal and steadfast. And that is what has carried me through this week, that I needed to be loyal and steadfast. And the whole journey that we traveled this week, Mama Bobby, when we were driving to Johannesburg, you said that you didn't know what happens after this. What's the point of continuing? And that broke my heart, but I'm so happy that on our way back to Bloemfontein, you remembered her words. You remembered what she wanted for you. Mama Pops, you were the biggest thing for Olo. She loved you so much, and all she wanted for you was to be happy at all times. Please continue to remember her wishes for you to continue, Mama, and we're with you. I leave you with the verse. Sorry, before I say that, actually, Olorato, during the weekend of my birthday, we did a sip and paint. And I printed out pictures for our friends to paint that meant something to me. So what Olo chose was the rose. And she painted this painting of the rose. It's not up. She painted this painting of the rose, and she said, it's missing something. And that was Olo. Something was missing. She would catch it and find a way to make sure. She added a note in Latin. And at the time when I saw it, I didn't really get to look it up or anything. It's only now that we've been back in Bloem that I checked it, and it is actually a feminist phrase that says, "Nolite de bastardes caborandoram." That means don't let the bastards get you down. I think that was something just to show that Olo knew that her name would have a lot of relevance in the space. And I draw strength from knowing that she knew that and that her name meant something. Mama Pops, I leave you with Peter 5, verse 10. Which says, "And after you have suffered a little while, the God of grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will see himself restore, secure, and strengthen, and establish you." Thank you.
I have known Olorato for a very long time, probably since 2011. But then we were not as close as we became in 2022 when she moved to Johannesburg, or rather later that year. And I still remember the first time we met up that side. We went out for lunch, which was a beautiful day. And then it turned into a karaoke night because we then went a bit of club hopping at that time. We ended up at this karaoke place and we were singing and dancing and having the time of our lives. And that memory will forever live in my mind. And I was with her last week Saturday actually, at church. And she randomly said, "Hey, I joined the church choir." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Because the last time I checked, it was at karaoke. She wasn't that great. Like, we were having a time, yes, but it didn't sound that great. So, but then I was like, okay, that's interesting. Because just before that, she gave me a call this one time and she's like, I was like, "What's up?" Like, every day is Xhosa. This is BMC. We are both at BMC. Okay, no, I get you. Like, sometimes I want to connect. So when she told me that she joined the choir, in my mind, the back of my mind, I was like, maybe she was trying to come. She was going to bring Sotho and Tswana songs that will then uplift the church and uplift people like me, right? That was a really good time. I had the best time with her. Every single time I was with her, it was a fantastic time, and I appreciate that she was raised by such beautiful women that have really sort of made her who she was. And I appreciate every single person who was a mosaic, who made that mosaic that is Olorato, because every single person that she came across also played a part in her life, and it wasn't just always that the other way around. I appreciate every single person that did play that part in her life, and I appreciate the fact that I spent that Saturday with her from 9 a.m. at church, and I invited her over to my house to have braai. Little did I know that it would be a good braai affair. However, I appreciate the fact that I hugged her at least 5 times that day, and I told her I love her more than I've ever done before. And I'm glad that she left knowing exactly how I felt, and she knew where I stood with her. And Mama Askis, that this is happening. I'm sorry that this happened, but I do understand. As much as I hate how she left, she did not deserve the way that she left. She's the least person that deserved to leave the way that she did. But I do understand that it is all of us' journey. We are all destined to go back to home where we belong. And God has definitely carried her and is carrying her, and we shall carry her in our hearts for the rest of our lives. For as long as we live, she will live. Thank you.
Olorato Mongale, umuhle ntombi. I dedicate this song to you, Vico Daspor. She knows it. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 16 to 18. Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Good morning, everyone. Mama Popi. Thank you all. A powerful being. From the start, there was something magnetic about her. Our friendship is something she would have called a slow burn. She had that kind of energy that made rooms warmer, conversations deeper, and life infinitely more colorful. She was bubbly, bold, vivacious, and brilliantly intelligent. But more than that, she was always present. She had a way of seeing you, hearing you, and making you feel understood, even in the messiness of life. She loved traveling and exploring, not just places, but people, ideas, and truths. She approached the world with curiosity and courage, writing thought pieces on everything, from global events to her most personal reflections. But never in a heavy way. She shared her thoughts with humor, with wit, and with a touch of elegance that was entirely her own. She could hold space for joy and sorrow in the same breath, and that way, she taught me that being strong doesn't mean being hard. Being vulnerable doesn't mean being weak. To those who knew her, she was a beam of light, magnetic, unshakable, unforgettable. People were drawn to her spirit. She didn't demand attention. She simply glowed. She was a beautiful person and surrounded herself with very beautiful people. To me, she was the girliest girly pop, a companion to navigate this life journey, a listening ear, the truest BFF. Ours was the kind of friendship that rooted itself so deeply because it was part of a community, 3 generations of womanhood and sisterhood. Our grandmothers share kinship, our mothers share a friendship deepened by womanhood. We shared a sisterhood. I remember we were planning a girls' foodie trip to Japan for the end of the year, and that's something we always did, plan trips. Another one was for Afro Nation next year with our moms. We'd share that trip is for them, that they're there to have fun, and we're there to make sure that they do. I hear people around me say, a friend like myself is needed, but I am this friend because of Olorato. I remember being in Joburg for the long weekend last year. I decided to take a spontaneous trip to Cape Town that Monday instead of heading back home. That Tuesday morning, she called and asked, "Hi, Bo, my sister, that's not Tromsburg you're in, my previous workplace." We would check on each other like that, our locations all the time. And so what happened on Sunday came naturally. It was instinct. Losing her feels like losing a piece of my heart, but I also know she would not want us to live in darkness. She would want us to laugh, to travel, to write, to question, to grow, to honor her light but continuing to shine our own. And so today, even in my sadness, I choose gratitude. Gratitude that I got to work alongside her in this life. Gratitude for every inside joke, every late night talk, every adventure, every ordinary moment that became extraordinary simply because she was in it. Rest well, my beautiful angel. I am so sorry. Thank you for being one of the lights in my life. I will carry you with me always. Olorato's friends and family, you loved her. Know that she loved you too. Mama Poppy, my heart sends comfort to your heart. Re lebogela botshelo ba gagwe. Gonneng re tla dula re itse gore Modimo o Lorato. A letter to my soul's Mikey. I find myself crying, unable to sleep, wondering why your beautiful soul has left us. I miss you already. I'm at a loss for words, my friend. My heart bleeds, my soul bleeds. Again, I'll tell you, I'm proud of you, proud to be your friend, proud to have been on this journey with you. I know that God was with you in every moment because you dedicated your life to building a strong spiritual life. Your sobriety, your celibacy, your will to build a relationship with God is proof that you were evolving, transcending. You evolved into an angel, our angel. I love you, I miss you, and I meant it when I said, till the wheels fall off, even beyond that.
Ke utwa osoko ke seka
Tributes continuing to pour in there. This is all happening at the Bloemfontein City Hall, where friends and family have gathered to pay their last respects to 30-year-old, of course, Olorato Mongale. This is all happening there in Bloemfontein. Now, her body was recovered on Sunday in Lombardy West of Johannesburg after she had left to go on a date. And of course, we picked this conversation with the Deputy Minister up now. That is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, youth and persons with disabilities, and that's Steve Letsike. It's utter devastation, Deputy Minister, I must say. I mean, we heard one of the friends there, just say that this is no way for a young person, or any other person, in fact, to go. This is no way for a young person to go. And here's the thing, Deputy Minister, the two suspects linked to Olorato's murder had previously been arrested for kidnapping and robbery, but were subsequently released on bail. I don't know, this actually speaks to a pattern that indicates potential lapses in the justice system that need to be addressed as a matter of urgency. And it's one thing for you to also talk to us about the grand plans that government has in place to fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. It's another to see those plans actually trickle down to where they matter the most. Talk to us about how your ministry is collaborating with law enforcement to prevent the release of repeat offenders, who pose a threat to women.
You are quite correct, because you must understand that the justice system on its own, or judiciary, which is another state or arm of the state, for that matter. Sorry, I'm giving this feedback. One has to appreciate that the comprehensive approach that speaks to coordinating a response and a proper response, where law enforcement take agency here, is that there's a report that goes to police. The police does investigation. There's a work that must be done by laboratory service or forensic service. And this then, as a case, is taken through to the National Prosecuting Authority. And from that landscape process, once it's handed over, then the judiciary service, in this case, where there is a court process, preparation for victims and survivors, but ultimately it's what must be proven as an outcome. And we are not happy in terms of how often constantly cases gets to be dropped, or judgment that does not find perpetrators accountable. That on its own speaks about, justice denied for people. So we are engaging with Justice Department here about the role of National Prosecuting Authority, which must provide an overall comprehensive approach to actually getting the conviction, which is the outcome we want to see constantly here. But also we continue to work with the South African Police Service in terms of strengthening what goes into the whole crime administrative system, but the function of getting forensic and getting the work into the prosecuting side. So those are some of the areas that we have to speak to. And it is why you see in cases of this nature where people get bail, and it's unacceptable that people just get bail, but there has been changes to the system. When can people get bail, and removing bail that is processed by police versus that must go to court ultimately. Those are some of the legal aspects that have, or regulations that have changed over time.
All right, I must just thank you so much. And that is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, youth and persons with disabilities. And that is Steve Letsike joining us right here on the show this morning. Thank you very much indeed for your time.